Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today at our IMS Virtual Open House. My name is Emily DeRosier, and I am the Admissions and Recruitment Administrator for the students here at IMS. We're really excited to introduce you to the Institute of Medical Science here at U of T. So, who are we and what makes us unique? Well, at IMS, we're all about impactful translational research that improves human health. We're actually the largest graduate unit in the Temerty Faculty of Medicine with over 500 students and 600 faculty. So this means that you'll have access to a huge variety of research opportunities, supervisors and collaborators from all across U of T and our partner hospitals, and a really strong peer community. So you'll always be able to find someone who's working on something that's completely different, but also something that's relatable to the research that you're interested in. And we also have a ton of student groups and clubs that you can be a part of. Our researchers are incredibly diverse: clinician scientists, basic scientists, population health experts, all working under the IMS umbrella across U of T and our affiliated research sites. So this means that we really are an institute without walls because we're so widely dispersed across U of T and across the different hospital research institutes. So, and like I mentioned before, because we're an institute without walls, as I noted previously, our students and our faculty are embedded across U of T and affiliated hospitals. So Sick Kids, the UHN network, CAMH, and so many more different places. So here's just a small sample of the research that we do at U of T, the research that we do here at IMS. For a more in-depth look at some of the research that our students and our faculty are currently doing, we do recommend checking out our research themes research page on the IMS website to learn more about our students and faculty who are building artificial lungs, repairing spinal cords, and developing global health strategies. So the graduate programs on offer at the IMS are a Master's of Science and a Doctorate of Philosophy. They're both full-time, fully funded, research-intensive programs. So this means that you're a full-time student and you're also fully funded, so you get a stipend through your supervisor. So you actually get paid to conduct research. So in addition to the graduate programs that we have, we also offer a range of specialized courses. And if you're looking to further specialize your degree, joining a collaborative specialization gives you the ability to explore a research area more in depth. And upon IMS degree completion, you'll also receive a specialization designation on your degree. So the IMS is affiliated with a wide range of collaborative specializations. We list just a few here on the other half of the slide. So we do also recommend, if you're interested, looking through the collaborative specializations that we have on offer. So what are we looking for in an application? Well, entry into the IMS falls into three main categories. So the first is academic preparation. So what does this mean? Well, it's a previous degree, the courses that you've taken in the previous degree, as well as the minimum GPA requirements. The second is research motivation. So how do you demonstrate research motivation or the motivation to conduct research? Well, you can demonstrate this through research experience, through previous research experience, like summer research programs, like the one the IMS has, the Summer Undergraduate Research Program, also known as SERP. You can also demonstrate motivation to conduct research through research courses like an undergrad thesis or a research project, or through a previous master's degree if those of you are if any of you are considering a PhD. And third is references. And specifically references from faculty members. So for those of you who are interested in the master's program at IMS, we require two faculty member references. For the PhD applicants, we require 3 references from faculty members. And at least one of these references must be from a faculty member with whom you've conducted research with. So they must be able to speak to your research experience and your research abilities. So for those of you who are interested in doing an MSc at the IMS, after you do an MSc at IMS, what do? What's next? Well, graduates from our MSc program go on to a wide range of careers, professional schools like medicine, dentistry, or in public health. They can go on to research roles in hospitals and in academia and within the private sector. And some even go on to transfer directly into our PhD program, which can happen within about 18 to 22 months after initial registration into the MSc program. So those of you who are interested in applying to our PhD program, after you do your PhD with IMS, what do? Well, over half of our PhD graduates actually stay in academia. They go on to do postdocs. They're offered faculty roles at places like U of T, UBC, and McMaster. Many go on to public sector roles at hospitals or health organizations and also within the government. And others actually find success in the private sector or in the pharmaceutical industry or even finance and in tech. Here are just a very small sampling of our notable alumni. And you can always check out more information at ims.utoronto.ca. Feel free to reach out with any questions that you may have. To give you a better sense of the student experience here at IMS, we've invited a few of our current students to share what they're currently working on and what their journey to the IMS has been like so far. Up first is Emily Young. She's an MSc student whose research explores potential new treatments for kidney disease. So over to you, Emily.
Okay. All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Emily Young, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm actually very excited to explain to you my journey from my undergrad degree to my MSc, so Master's of Science degree, and how I found a sense of passion in the research that I do and all the things I do. So let's begin. I began my undergraduate degree at Queen's University, Ontario, Canada, with the Bachelor of Health Sciences program with a specialization in applied research methods. I then did a 4th-year master's project and love the concept that in research, your findings can have a real impact on improving patient lives and the quality of patient treatments. Beyond my academic work in my undergraduate degree, I've had partaken in a lot of extracurriculars and works part-time. So I was a mentor, I worked in residence, I was a private music teacher, and I also was a teaching assistant, and I did a lot of summer studentships in research of diabetes and diabetic complications. Of particular focus. I was actually volunteering in a hospital in an art therapy program with a patient on dialysis, and that patient actually passed away. And it was a very emotional experience for me because we had created a genuine human connection. And just from that experience alone, it kind of wanted me to really understand the biology of kidney disease and how to improve treatments for people with kidney disease. So that actually led me to starting my Master's of Science in the IMS program, where I'm actually based in St. Michael's Hospital doing wet bench research. And my research explores new treatment opportunities for patients with kidney disease. And I hope that with my research, I can improve the way treatment outcomes are provided to patients with kidney disease, such as chronic kidney disease and acute kidney injury. I like to say that within my graduate degree, I classify everything in 3 components. So there's the research component, there's the extracurricular component, and then there's the personal component that I like to do on my own. So within my first year of my Master's of Science, I had heavily spent a lot of my time in the research realm. So I completed all my program requirements, collected all my data curation for my thesis and manuscript that will be coming out soon. We did all the committee meetings. I had attended the American Society of Nephrology conference in San Diego last year, where we presented my findings, and then we published manuscripts and I obtained some scholarships. Then last year, I was part of the Institute of Medical Sciences Student Association Academics and Outreach committees, where we were fundraising for used clothes for the homeless population, as well as hosting events to foster that supporting connection from the undergraduate departments in the University of Toronto and the Institute of Medical Science. And then on my own time, I'm a freelance photographer. So I have a lot of bookings and events for photography, and then I go to the gym and do a lot of outings with my families and friends. Fast forward to my second year, which will be my last year, I reshifted a lot of my time to extracurriculars and personal events. So still within research, I am writing my thesis and preparing for my defense, which will happen in June. I am now collaborating on additional research projects with my lab members, still publishing manuscripts and doing scholarships. But this year I'm a peer-to-peer mentor, as well as the director of external communications. And one of the biggest things you might see if you're on social media is that we have this whole series called IMS Ask You, where I go around asking students what they liked about certain events or highlighting the value of an IMS degree or the events that student leaders are hosting. This actually led me to start working with Professor Dr. Pamela Plant on our new ChatGPT podcast, which is a really cool podcast that highlights the value of an IMS degree and what you can potentially do as an alumni, especially with a focus in industry. And then I also do photography and videography for the IMS department. So fast forward into the future, in June 2025, I will be completing my final Master's of Science oral examination. So if there's anything to take away from my journey is that opportunities come once in a lifetime, and if they do come, you should definitely seize them. I was very fortunate in the sense that I had a passion in research and I got to do what I love, and I get to do other things that I love, like videography and photography in the work of my graduate degree. So for all you folks that are entering your journey into your graduate degree, please enjoy the ride. There's always challenges and hurdles, but make sure to always thank the people along the way. Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Emily. It's beautiful. I think a story I can remember, or I always tell people, is fear has killed more dreams than failure has. So it's okay to step out of your comfort zone, do things you might not, because as Emily mentioned, you never know where it's going to take you, and you might do a lot of great things within the department, within your own life as well. So thank you, Emily. That's wonderful. So next, let's hear from Stefan, a PhD student that's in IMS, who's done a lot of great things as well. So Stefan, take it away.
While Stefan's sharing his screen, I just also want to take this time to plug the Instagram. Follow us on U of T at U of T IMS and also IMSA U of T to see all the things that Emily posts and we post and to keep up to date with IMS happenings. Okay, take it away, Steph.
Sure, for sure. All right, hi everyone. Today I'll tell you the journey of how I joined IMS. Um, it started with my parents who never studied or knew much about school. They came to Canada with virtually nothing. So from the beginning, like the majority of you, I've been trying to figure out everything on my own. I remember sitting in convocation hall alongside my buddies in first year, thinking, what am I really going to study at this university? My parents never pushed me to become a doctor or a lawyer, and so I had the opportunity to pick something I was truly interested in. I ended up becoming fascinated with the immune system. Forgive me, I'm a huge nerd, but learning about how the human body defends itself, I really thought it couldn't get cooler than that. And with all the applications to medicine and patients, I was truly blown away. It got to the point where I could see myself lecturing, teaching, advancing immunotherapies. But how do I do that if I've never done research? So now the question comes, how do I get into graduate school? I started cold emailing professors in the immunology department with no prior research experience and only a few research courses under my belt. I finally got an opportunity in third year summer, and my research involved optimizing an experiment to test inflammatory activation in your gut. The lab experience was amazing. From doing experiments, having conversations with your lab mates, chatting with professors, and presenting at lab meeting. What I realized is that I enjoyed the social aspects of lab work a lot more than the rigor of wet lab research. For my particular project, I was unfortunately stuck by myself inside the fume hood for well over 8 to 9 hours a day. Um, After going on to do my fourth year thesis in the same lab, I had optimized that experiment and proved myself to be an efficient wet lab researcher. But by that point, I was exhausted and knew wet lab research may not be for me. But I still wanted to do research, and I knew I had to switch into something more clinical. Although I had not gotten many opportunities in undergrad, I had always been interested in cancer research. This disease was personal, it had affected a lot of my friends and family, and I knew it would give me a strong purpose if I were to do this type of work. At this time, 1 year before my graduation, my grandfather passed away. His death was never determined, but he had suffered a long time from prostate cancer. Ultimately, he was in a lot of pain and suffered a lot at the end of his life. Having to feel like a burden and be dependent on my grandmother, he often expressed that he wished he could have gone to heaven sooner. His passing drastically affected my view on death itself and impacted my career trajectory. I knew I just had to help people in similar situations like his. Little did I know that would grow to define my research interests. IMS had been known to be the department to do clinical research, and eventually, after looking at both the immunology and IMS research directories, I'd come across an IMS professor named Dr. Madeline Lee, a professor who not only had a background of research in cancer and immunology, but one that researches palliative and end-of-life care. I emailed and interviewed with only one professor for graduate school, and the rest was history. Fortunately, I had pretty good grades and lab experience in my third and fourth years, which got me an acceptance into IMS and the Lee Lab for my master's. After transferring into the PhD program just this past year, I am now a third-year PhD candidate. I study patients with advanced cancer in their final days and how they make decisions about end of life. I have some side projects that are more immunology focused, but the majority of my work is in psychosocial oncology and qualitative instead of bench work. I love where I am. I love what I do. I have an amazing professor who gives me all the opportunities she possibly can. I've been to over 6 conferences, presented internationally. I have a first author paper with 3 more first author publications on the way. I've won a $15,000 CGSM scholarship, and I've applied to others, which I hope to win. One of the best parts is that I've had the opportunity to be supervised and speak with the best researchers in psychosocial oncology and psychoneuroimmunology in the world. Besides my PhD, I'm very involved in many of the IMS student groups. I'm currently the co-president of both the Institute of Medical Science Students Association and U of T Talks. Through these roles, I get to plan conferences, create seminars, participate in outreach initiatives, join intramurals, and work with some of the most amazing people in the department. And I just want to say, I hope my story shows you that it's okay to be a little confused before and during graduate school. Stay calm It takes a lot of time to find your place in academia, research, and medicine. But once you find something that is meaningful to you, take that shot and take that leap of faith. With so many professors and opportunities, I know you'll find what you're looking for at IMS. Thank you.
Oh, that was beautiful, Stefan. Oh my goodness, that's wonderful. I think everyone here that's watching can kind of have the same story of how your experience kind of guides where you are, right? Research is not just rooted on personal experience, but sometimes it's when it's based on your experience, there's more than just knowledge, there's purpose, there's a meaning to it. So even those long, rough days, you have something to work towards. That's wonderful. Thank you, Stefan. Now, on the same sort of PhD guy, we have Krista, who does well lab experiences. So maybe we can hear how she chose well lab and not dry lab. Go ahead, Krista, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Saji, for the introduction. I'm Kriza. I'm currently a PhD student also in IMS, as Saji has mentioned. So I'm excited to tell you guys a bit more about how I got into my degree. So for myself, I started off as an undergrad student, also at U of T, where I did biochemistry specialist. And I was more so introduced in a lot of basic science research. And my first bench-side research was actually also on biochemistry, which was more so on looking at protein structure and protein crystallization and things like that, which was extremely basic. I understood the importance of it, but then I've always been interested in more so doing clinical work. So then after that first year, I decided to move on to do some clinical research at TGH, where I looked at patients who underwent multi-organ transplant. And one of the projects that I was mostly involved with was the quality improvement projects, where we're interested in helping people sort of transition into going back to work, or also for pediatric patients who are going to transition into adult transplant world. And concurrently, I was also working with Dr. Alba, who's more so doing cardiac transplant research projects. So from her lab, I more so did a lot of systematic reviews, meta-analyses. So still a lot of sort of desk work or dry lab research. And I was also involved with a lot of patient recruitments, also with clinical trials and also clinical rounds that I've attended as well. And through that, actually, I was able to go to several conferences and also some publications that came out of there as well. And during my recruitment, actually, for one of the patients, I was introduced to cardio-oncology research by one of the cardiologists also I was working with, who's Dr. Dinesh. Who then I introduced myself to also Dr. Jason Fish, who at that time were just starting off their collaboration or their projects. And this project, more so, I'd like to say the crossroads between cardiology or heart research and also oncology research, which is essentially called cardio-oncology. So for my summer project during that time, I more so looked into the biomarker study, so looking at how we can better predict patients who are developing cardiotoxicity from chemotherapy. And I went back to translational because I realized that I like doing the hands-on research that I have been doing during my undergraduate degree. But the clinical research, although again, I understood the importance of it, I wanted to do something more hands-on and really go into some more mechanistic studies moving forward. And so I think translational for me was sort of the halfway point of doing clinical work and also doing a lot of the basic science research and involving that skills that I've learned throughout my undergraduate degree. And during that summer as well, like I've decided to go into the master's program at IMS. Since I was more so curious into looking more so at the mechanistic details of things, of the cardio-oncology project that I was in. And the reason why I applied to IMS was because I realized that there's a lot of expertise, and also the faculty at IMS are very much so involved with the project as well. So and there's also tons of funding available that's specific to my program, or sorry, my project, or even external to that, which is why I decided to join IMS. And through that, I was able to more so look into the mechanistic details, looking at nanoparticles that are sort of mediating that cardiotoxicity. And as Emily has also mentioned at the very beginning, IMS is also part of, they also sort of are part of the cardiovascular collaborative program. And through IMS, I was able to join that as well. And during my degree as well, I experienced a lab shutdown during COVID-19. And so I mostly worked remotely, so there was no lab work that's being done. But I made use of my time by writing some review articles and also joining virtual conferences. And I was able to receive one of the Young Investigator Award as well at one of the conference that I attended virtually. I decided that I really liked what I was doing, and then also the project was great. My supervisor was great, and so I decided to transfer to the PhD program a year after I joined IMS. And through that, I was still able to sort of continue on the project that I have been doing as a master's student. And there's still some ongoing collaborations that I'm still currently a part of. And I was able to attend again a lot of conferences, either international or also just province-wide or Canada-wide. And there's also a lot of summer student mentorships that I'm also involved with. And the last thing I wanted to highlight is extracurriculars. So IMS is such a close-knit environment, and I think one thing that sets us apart is the extracurricular activities that are available within the program and even outside of it. And I think that's what makes IMS unique. And for everybody, for PhD, it is a very long run, but I always like to tell other people that, PhD is not, it's more so a marathon, it's not a race. So take it slow, enjoy the process, don't look at the goal, you'll get there eventually. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Krisa. That's beautiful. I almost miss wet lab experiments now. I'm aware dry lab works. I miss wet lab after that story. That's beautiful. So next, Emily mentioned in the start of the presentation something about what students do after we graduate. So we have a master's, a PhD. What's next? A potential route that we can all take after a PhD, something called a postdoctorate. We have an alumni with us, Nicolette, who is actually doing her postdoc, and I don't want to take her story away from her, so she'll have a time to talk about her journey, where she's at, and what she's doing right now as well. Nicolette, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Saji, for that introduction. I was very happy to be invited back to give a bit of a talk about my research journey, and hopefully I am able to give a bit of a different perspective here as a recent graduate, and now kind of continuing my academia journey into the postdoctoral fellowship. So I'll go back to the start. I'll give a brief overview of my undergrad and how I kind of moved into clinical research, and give a bit of a snapshot of what I'm currently doing now. So I did my undergrad at U of T, where I completed a major in neuroscience and a double minor in physiology and psychology. And during my undergrad, I also held a lot of different positions, volunteering positions and research positions to gain some experience in different healthcare environments and see what I might want to do after graduating. And one of my longest standing commitments was at Toronto General Hospital in the Behavioral Cardiology Research Unit, where I first started off as a volunteer research assistant, and then eventually I got hired as a research assistant. And during my time there, I had the opportunity to take part in a lot of different research activities, including data entry, literature reviews, helping out with some patient visits as well, and statistical analyses. And after being in that lab for quite some time, I was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to first author a systematic review and meta-analysis, and also present at a national conference. And being exposed to this type of environment at such an early stage in my undergraduate degree was really eye-opening. And it really did kind of shape the trajectory of my academic career and the path that I decided to go down. And so it was actually through this experience and the encouragement of my supervisor during undergrad that I realized how much I enjoy clinical research and writing papers, and that was something that I wanted to pursue further. So with that, I looked into programs that I would want to apply to, and I came across IMS. And what immediately drew me to this program was that it was research intensive, and as mentioned previously, is that it's primarily hospital based. So I really liked the fact that I would be gaining experience in a hospital setting, and I would be outside of the kind of university environment. And in terms of finding a lab, I looked into supervisors whose research interests lined up with mine. So specifically, I looked I narrowed it down into the neuroscience and psychiatry field. And this is where I came across my PhD supervisors, Dr. Margaret Hahn and Dr. Mahavir Agarwal. And I was extremely pleased to see that their research interests and work actually encapsulated everything that I was interested in academically in undergrad. So I had the neuroscience aspect, working it with a psychiatric population, and our work all relates to the crosstalks between cardiometabolic health and cognitive health and severe mental illness. So I got to really explore the physiology aspects of things as well, and not just the brain. So that was really exciting, and I knew that it would be a great fit for me in terms of subject matter. And after my interview with them, they immediately got me in touch with other students in the lab, and I immediately felt a more personable connection with that lab. And I knew that it was going to be a team. There was a large team, and I wouldn't be joining a lab where I would be working on my own. I knew that there were other senior students or postdoctoral fellows in the lab that could help guide and help my transition into graduate school. So with that, I joined their lab and I started my master's in September 2019. And my thesis was a neuroimaging-based study investigating the effects of antipsychotics on brain insulin action. I was also involved in a lot of other background projects focused on understanding the cardiometabolic risk in patients with schizophrenia and some of the pharmacological treatments that exist to mitigate these issues. And then just as I was finally settling in, I was getting the hang of graduate school. My study was up and running. I had active participants in my clinical trial. That's when COVID hit and effectively shut down all of my in-person research activities. And at that point, just like the rest of the world, and like we heard in the previous presentation, I had to shift my focus to remote work and to try to maintain my productivity with some other projects. So I worked on a lot of meta-analyses, a lot of retrospective chart reviews, or worked with, did secondary analysis of data that had already been collected in our lab. And I also took this time to really troubleshoot and self-learn or self-teach fMRI analysis techniques, which would be something that I would need to know for my thesis down the line. And luckily, I wasn't out of the lab for too long, and by October 2020, I was allowed to resume my recruitment for my study. Now, over the course of that year, I decided that I wanted to continue research further. I really enjoyed the work that I was doing, and I knew that the time had gone by way too fast, and I knew that I didn't want the road to end there. So after a discussion with my supervisors, we decided that it would be a good idea for me to transfer into the PhD program. And so I did that in June 2021. And what's great about IMS, as we've heard again from some of the previous presenters, is that it allowed all my productivity and the achievements that I obtained during my master's to carry over to the PhD. So once I transferred over, I was automatically considered a third-year PhD student. So it was nice to kind of accelerate that academic process as well. And as I transferred into the PhD program, I also wanted to diversify my portfolio a bit. So I got involved in other activities such as teaching. And for the last 2.5 years of my PhD, I served as the TA for one of the mandatory courses that all graduate students within IMS need to take. And this was such an enriching part of my grad school experience. I got to be more involved within the academic department and take on a leadership position within this community. And it really showed me that I wanted to continue with teaching activities in the future. So I was really grateful to have had that opportunity and for the duration of time that I had that opportunity. And then finally came the time where in summer 2023, where I needed to focus on writing my dissertation. So that was pretty much the bulk of my summer in 2023. And then in November 2023, I successfully defended my thesis. And at that same time, I had to figure out what I wanted to do next. Those 4 years sped by really quickly. But as I was writing my thesis, there was some interesting pilot data that came out of it, and we observed some sex differences in my work that we didn't actually account for in that previous study. So I actually wrote up an entire grant from scratch based off that pilot data, and that got successfully funded along with a fellowship to support me as a postdoctoral fellow. So I'm currently extending my time in the lab that I did my PhD in, and I've been promoted to the postdoc title, which is nice. And at this time, I'm still working on publishing some aspects of my thesis. I was involved in the study design and uh, kind of development of my postdoctoral study from the start. Got RUB approval, Health Canada approval, and we're currently actively recruiting participants in that study. And during this time, I'm also exploring other teaching opportunities and trying to take a larger role in supervising students within our lab as well. So that brings me to where I currently am. I Ollie, I know that my research journey doesn't end here. I don't know what's next, but I do see myself continuing on in academia. And I'm currently trying to explore different opportunities within U of T and elsewhere to kind of broaden my horizons and my portfolio. I'm trying to stay as connected with IMS as possible. I'm a part of the recruitment committee still. I also serve as a poster judge at our annual scientific day. Within U of T, I'm a part of other graduate departments and committees, like in the Banting and Best Diabetes Center. So I've really been enjoying this kind of transition as a postdoc and trying to explore the different opportunities that are out there that will kind of help shape my career moving forward. So I guess I will wrap it up there. I just want to say that I had a really enriching experience with IMS. There definitely were some ups and downs throughout the degree. COVID didn't make that any easier, but I really did have a great experience overall, and I don't think I could have chosen a better graduate department. And yeah, I hope this was kind of a helpful little snapshot of what life might be like post PhD or post IMS as well. So thank you for the opportunity.